Welcome to Fantasy Sports Daily with Kyle Elfrink and Ray Flowers, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't forget to use the promo code FSD20 for a 20% discount on the products over at fantasyguru.com.
It is a pleasure to have you back with us. Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com. Kyle Elfrink on this side, Ray Flowers on that side, getting you set for an hour of all things fantasy. And today is one of those days where we kind of make our way around the globe when it comes to fantasy sports. We got plenty of baseball, got some basketball. Justin Fensterman's going to join us. And we have some football, despite the fact that we are still, about 12 days away from the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Ray Flowers, how does the morning find you?
Pretty well. You know, I was just talking with you before the show. It's amazing how many things, if you think about how many things all of us accomplish on a daily basis, the mundane things, right? There's the list. You wake up, you go, beep. My mornings are busy, and I feel like at the end when we get on the show, it's like I haven't really done anything, but I look back and it's like I've done 107 things. I added, I said 45 before the show started. It's 107 now that we're talking to all of you. But yeah, I'm doing well. Clicking buttons, making things happen. Looking forward to the next hour.
My mornings are not quite as fast forwarded as yours are, but I did spend my morning trying to find a way to explain to a 4.5-year-old what a muscle pull is.
Okay.
He appears to be suffering from some sort of growing pull, like he's been limping around.
Okay.
But it's I didn't even know a 4.5-year-old could have a muscle that he can pull, but he is limping around, right?
Right.
And it's like he's not. Last night he was limping. This morning he was limping. I felt my wife wanted to keep him home from school, and I don't do this very often. But Ray, I put my foot. I go, no, this is you can still go to school with a limp. Okay, we still can do that, right? So I told her, I go, I know you feel I'm being tough on him, but this if he's going to play sports, you got to fight through this stuff. And to his credit, last night he fought through it, played soccer, had a great time, but he's still limping this morning. He says it is a bit painful. It feels better when he rests. But explaining to him what had actually happened, Ray, was a little difficult for me today.
Well, and this is from former athlete Kyle Elfrink, who broke his hip and had hip surgery. Kyle's a man.
I'm a man. Yeah.
I mean, I think did he slip on ice or water?
No. I picked him up from school yesterday, and he was limping. It must have been something on the playground. Maybe he made a quick move. I asked him if something hit him, like he ran in, and it's not bruised. There's no bruising on the outside. Yeah. So we think it is a muscle pull. But again, Ray, 4.5 years old, can you do that?
It's yeah. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I don't remember pulling too many muscles when I was very lucky. I hardly pulled muscles. I sprained this and broke that. Like I had the injuries, in sports. But I didn't really pull muscles. That wasn't something that I dealt with. But yeah, I don't remember the first time that happened to me. Yeah. But I imagine as a child, you smash your finger and it's blue, it hurts. Daddy, what's happening? Something inside here is like I don't see it. So I get that must be weird.
Well, when he walks, it's kind of sad. He looks like an old 90-year-old man because he doesn't really know I don't know. It's been a big topic of discussion here at the Elfrink household. And again, my wife did not push the idea of him staying home, but she actually broached the topic. I said, hell no, this is not happening. So I drug him out of the house and got him off to school today. I will keep everybody abreast of that situation as we go through the week. I told him more than anything, we're going to sit around, we're going to be lazy, and we're going to ice it. That's my rule. And some pain medicine, to maybe alleviate some of that. I'm trying, folks. I'm trying to be a good dad. We'll see how it ends up. As for today on FSD, what do we have for you? Well, a lot of baseball. We had a trade. We had a signing. Jorge Polanco traded to Seattle. Justin Turner. We were talking about him yesterday. In fact, we'll talk about him today. He has inked a deal with Toronto. Ray will have his yearly discussion into the wall about getting rid of wins. I don't know. There are people out there who take Ray's side on this. I'm not really one of them. My problem, we'll get into this, is I don't think we've found a good replacement for wins. So we'll talk about that. Always a big topic of discussion when we get ready for a fantasy baseball season. This week on the show, we are discussing all things first baseman. Yesterday was our one big question, kind of our introduction to the position. Today, we've got surprises from a year ago, and can they repeat it in 2024? We'll talk some NBA with Justin Fensterman and a little bit of NFL news. A couple of teams still looking for a coach. Kansas City losing a piece of their defense, so we will continue to get you set for Super Bowl 58. Ray Flowers continue to get us set for savings. Ray is the coupon man here on the show. He knows how to put you in the right direction and make sure you get the best deal possible. So Ray, help us out here. Baseball Guide is out. Fantasy Guru's got some specials. What's going on there?
Yeah, we got all kinds of things, obviously, at the website. FSD20 is the discount coupon. FSD20, that is for all the products. Whether you're doing DFS or seasonal, it should be good for a 20% discount on everything. Right now, we do have the baseball product out and available. We're updating it daily. At least 2 articles Monday through Friday, at least 1 Saturday and Sunday. So you're getting at least 12 articles a week as a minimum. Right now, we just started releasing our best ball information. So Scott Bonder has got a basics, how to play best ball. We've got the actual best ball rankings from our man at the top MLB model, Rob. So we've got that section kind of this week coming down. Basically, we've got everything kind of covered. Head-to-head, best ball, dynasty, rookies, research articles, player profiles, a little bit of everything for the product, which is through the entirety of the season, not just a preseason product, through the entirety of the season. Again, use the promo code FSD20 for another 20% discount on the early bird pricing. And then right now we've got the football deal going on too, which is $29.99. That gets you through the Super Bowl, which doesn't sound like much, but hear me out. It gets you through the Super Bowl seasonal, so you get all access to all the seasonal stuff we've got. DFS, access to all the DFS stuff we got. Wagering, access to all the wagering stuff we got, including the Super Bowl guide. You get all of that, and you get the franchise mode, which is kind of the off-season look that we have for football, including the draft. So that's available right now on a super discount as well at fantasyguru.com. So head over to the site, click on all the links on the top right, join now tab, use that promo code FSD20.
I should know this. Ray, is the Super Bowl guide out yet, or will that be out, I guess, coming up this week or maybe early next week, I'm guessing?
It's not out yet. I know yesterday I was involved with we're creating the art yesterday, for the banners and the logo. So that's I think pretty much the last official piece. So I would assume, I don't know the answer. I don't have the target date. I don't know if it's this week or next. I'll try to find that out, and maybe we can share that tomorrow on the show.
Yeah, it will be before the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's always a fun. And like I said, you're putting $30 down very easily by using that guide. You can win a lot of that money back. And as Ray noted, the seasonal stuff, and that may sound weird here in the postseason, but there have been write-ups, kind of recapping the year, looking ahead. All those things will be available. So kind of keeps you rolling with some football as we go into the month of February. We begin, though, with some baseball today. And Ray, we had a trade go down. And it's interesting, like this name to a lot of people, Ray, it's like, okay, yeah, I've heard of Jorge Polanco. I know he's pretty good. I think Jorge Polanco, Ray, is probably better than people give him credit for. The last 3 seasons, his OPS plus is 20% better than the average major league hitter. He gets traded from Minnesota to Seattle. It's not a pure salary dump, but it's kind of a salary dump for Minnesota. They're scaling back and kind of reorienting some of their money. Seattle needs offense in the infield. They gave up 4 pieces, and although there are no huge names going back to Minnesota, we'll talk about what the Twins got back. But Ray Polanco, again, going to Seattle, and it just gives us an opportunity to kind of take people through the idea that, yes, this is a good hitter. The issue is lately, as good as he's been in the batter's box, it's been kind of tough to keep him in the batter's box. He's had a lot of injuries the last few years. He
has. And I mean, his last full season, which was his best season in 2021, dude went 30, 95, 95. Like, that's legit production. And he's had another season where he scored over 100 runs, had 20 plus home runs. I think the thing with Polanco is that he's played in Minnesota, which is not a huge market. Your point is accurate. The last couple of years, he's dealt with injuries. He's not a base stealer. So even if he has a good season and hits 275 with 25 home runs and 90 RBIs, doesn't really pop in the fantasy space. But he's going to play every day, provided he's healthy. The Mariners have on paper, a kind of offense. But if you look at the pieces and you think to yourself, these guys stay healthy and they play up to their potential, like this could be a really good lineup. And I think some of the early buzz is that Polanco might hit even 3rd in the lineup. Yeah. So third to 5th, something like that. So he'll certainly be in a run, producing position. I think it was a good addition for Seattle. And the key is, as you said, him staying healthy and on the field.
And amazingly, Ray, like I look at ADP, and I would suspect this improves a little bit because of what you noted. I mean, he gets into the news. He goes to Seattle, middle of the order, those kind of things. Ray, he is scot-free right now. Like, he's legitimately free. The NFBC ADP has him 25th off the board at second. Mm-hmm. Now, he only has second base eligibility for most leagues, so that's a little different maybe from past years. But, like, Ray, we talk about injuries. Like, if I got him in the 270s, mm-hmm. I don't even care about the injuries. Like, really. If I got 90 games of Jorge Polanco, and let's say he could be Jorge Polanco, mm-hmm. totally fine. So, like, you're 100% correct. Like, the injuries are there. But that affects my decision making in the top 100. By the time you get to 270, who cares? Like, if you get just a bat that when they're on the field they produce, sign me up. I love that cost on Polanco.
Yeah, I think again, he's not a 300 hitter and he's not a 15 steal guy. So there's a limitation, and it really does come down, as we both have said, to him being on the field. There's a huge difference with Polanco with 390 plate appearances and 590. Right, he needs to be a compiler. That he's more of that kind of a player. But in our rankings over at FantasyGuru.com, I'm looking at him right now. We've got him 18th at second base, so substantially ahead of the ADP. It might change, as you said, for the reasons we're discussing here. It might go up a little bit as we move forward. But I think it's if I felt confident he was going to play 145 games, he'd probably be 14th. Right?
Yeah,
like
he might be. Ray, if he gets 140 games, he has an opportunity to be a top 12 second baseman. Honestly.
He does. The path is playing time, though, as we keep saying here, as we keep hitting on. Looking at some of the projections, I'm looking at the projection models over at FanGraph. Like, see, they've all got him in that 250, 2070 zone, because they're all projecting like 125 games played. But yeah, he's a very good hitter, and let's not overlook the fact too, he just turned 30. Like, he's not an old guy that should be broken down either. Should be a lot of a lot of time left in his career. It is difficult to hit in Seattle. It's not a great ballpark for offense, but that again, if he's somewhere in the 3 to 5 hole with this team, and he's around Julio Rodriguez and Cal Raleigh and Mitch Garver, like, the offense could be more productive than we're anticipating.
Next week we'll talk second baseman. I'll tell you, I'm looking at this list, and Polanco being 25th, there's a lot of good players in the 20s at second base. Like, guys, not Judes who can cover you in 5 categories, but they can certainly be very good in like 2 and proficient in 3. Unlike the first base position that we're talking about this week, second base is very deep, very, very deep. So Polanco, part of that crew off to Seattle. On the flip side of this trade, Ray, is what Minnesota gets. And I noted kind of a salary dump. There was a little bit of money going back to the Twins. Or actually, was it to the Mariners? Yeah, I guess it was to the Mariners to kind of even up, or to the Twins to pay for like Anthony Desclafani. He's got a bigger contract. But David in the chat room is kind of noting the particulars here. And again, this doesn't really isn't relevant to the fantasy player for the most part, Ray. But the fact that Justin Topa goes to the Twins, that's a very good middle relief arm. The guy was excellent, as David notes last season. And the outfield prospect, I think it's Gabriel Gonzalez. He's really young. Like, he's only been an A-ball. But a lot of people already consider him a top 100 Major League Baseball prospect. So this works for both teams, I think, Ray. I mean, Minnesota gets quantity back. It never excites people when you get a really good 7th inning arm or whatever it may be for Topa, but that's kind of what they got. Desclafani in a pinch. If you have injuries, you can throw him out there and make use of him. He's a body. And then you wait 3 or 4 years and you hope Gabriel Gonzalez develops. Yeah, and I saw this. I'm trying to look it up as we're talking here. I believe that Anthony Desclafani will cost the Twins no money. Okay, they evened out the zero. Well, the Giants are paying half, and the Mariners are playing half. So I think he's a better deal than Ohtani then. Yeah, right. I think that, like you said, this is a deal that on paper seems to work for both teams. It's never wrong to get depth on the hill. Desclafani is clearly a veteran 4-5 starting pitcher at the big league level. He's not a superstar. He's had a couple of nice moments, but in general, he's kind of just a guy. But if you look at the rotation with the Twins, they've got Lopez, Ryan, and Ober locked in. That's a really good threesome. And then it's, guys like Paddock coming back from injury, the youngster Louis Varland. Like, there's a chance that, Desclafani even established himself as part of this rotation. They probably be comfortable with him making 25 starts this year. They got Topa in the bullpen. So yeah, I think that this is one of those deals that
if Polanco stays healthy, makes an all-star team, hits 290 with 32 home runs, everyone's going to go, oh, crap, right? Because the guys they got back probably don't feel starring roles with the Twins, but it's a good baseball trade.
Yeah. And the Mariners obviously trading from a strength of positioning. Their bullpen is loaded with fireballers. That was one of their hallmarks last season. But when you're strong there, you're weak in the infield, you got to trade from strength. It's a reminder to all the fantasy players out there of how to make trades. And the Mariners, more than anybody, kind of reminds us of how to make trades. That's what they enjoy doing. So again, Polanco off to Seattle. He will be joining the Mariners down in Arizona for spring training instead of Florida. He was going to go down to Florida with the Twins. Now heading to the desert with the Mariners. Elsewhere yesterday, Ray, Justin Turner has found a home. We were talking about him yesterday. I don't know how many people realize this, but amongst first basemen, and he did play about 40 games at first base last season, so he does qualify. But when you add it all up, Ray, he was a top 12 first baseman. As we noted yesterday, he didn't have a home yet. He gets a home now. 1 year, $13 million to go to Toronto. How's he fit in with the Blue Jays? I guess that's like, where are we going? Where are we going to bat? How often are we going to play? That's and by the way, we're like 37 years old. That's the question with Justin Turner.
He's 39 years old, Kyle. You gave him
39.
Credit.
Gosh,
even older.
Credit. Yeah.
There hasn't been much give in his offensive game, maybe a little bit from his peak, but as you noted, he was still very effective last season. The move to Toronto is a strong one for him. He obviously joins a what should be a really good lineup. Toronto played much fairer last year as a ballpark than we anticipated. They made the moves, the dimensions were changed and stuff, but the ballpark, the offense we expected didn't happen, right? So it played fair still. Ben Nicholson-Smith, is that his name? The beat writer.
I think so.
Yeah, he tweeted out that the early expectation is, and hold your horses, folks, the early expectation is Justin Turner hits cleanup. So if he's hitting behind Springer, Bichette, and Vlad Guerrero, and he stays on the field, it's going to be pretty hard not to get 90-plus RBIs, right?
Well, that would be as a DH. I mean, Vlad's your first baseman. Let's see, third base, who is it? Gio. So, but the thing is, you don't want Justin Turner playing third base anymore. Nah. At his age, like you said, you're pretty well looking at this guy, Ray, as DH. Maybe he gets a few at bats at first, but probably a year from now, he might be DH only. He might be utility, but now you still get him to where you can move him around on your fantasy roster.
Yeah, and from the Blue Jays perspective, maybe he plays 12 games at first base and 9 at third, right? He gives guys a rest. It's a matchup thing, so he may not be eligible in the fantasy space, but he's useful for the team. I mean, it's a good signing. It's a 1-year deal. If he craps out at 39, they're not tied in long term or anything like that. Again, the top of that order could be absolutely smoking. I think one of the bigger questions we have to deal with now with this team is, what do things look like? Because I agree with you, Turner's likely to play DH majority of the time. What does that do to the catcher spot? Because we saw a lot of Jansen and Kirk in the lineup at the same time last year and the year before, because one was catching and one was DHing. With the way Christian Kirk hit last year, and we talked about him last week here on the show, the struggles he had, and the fact that Jansen seems to be a much more impactful offensive player, do we see Kirk really? Is Kirk's ceiling capped? Is 275 plate appearances all he's going to get if these guys stay healthy?
Yeah, might be. Very well might be. Turner's another guy right now, Ray. He's free. He's going in the 250s. And last year he was pretty well free. And I remember he was one of the guys because he was going to Boston. I was like, he'll be fine there. And then I said he was free, take a shot. He was kind of one of my guys who I said was a rebound candidate or whatever. And he was coming off not bad years by any stretch, but I think people kind of thought he was washed, not worth much anymore. Went to Boston, 23 homers, 86 ribbies. And I would hope maybe that's the number you get this year, which is damn impressive for a 39-year-old. And if everything went perfectly, and Ray mentions the spot in the batting order, maybe 90-plus ribbies is doable for a guy like Justin Turner. But again, Ray, totally free. And I think that's something to keep in mind. We're talking about two guys who have the potential of 25 home runs. We're talking about two guys who have the potential of 90 ribbies. Now, they're not going to be 5x5 studs, but Ray, two guys who can do that in the 250s and lower. I mean, that speaks to some hitting depth that we do have. It's, people concentrate on the front rounds. We do, and everybody loves that. But man, you can find guys beyond round 20 who can absolutely move the needle for you in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, and I think it does come down to how you've built your team as well. Because what really happens, and we haven't said it directly, I don't think, this baseball season, so let's say it directly. In the draft, when you're looking at ADP and all that, people project. All right. Taking Polanco, taking Justin Turner, people aren't interested in 270, 2080. They're not interested in that. Okay. So what they'd rather do is take a youngster that's ascending, someone in a good spot in the batting order, that kind of thing. That player may never hit above 255 with 7 home runs, but that they're projecting him out. So the projection game really hits hard on established veteran players that are aging, right? So they're just not sexy. They're not exciting. They're not appealing to people. So you reach that point of the draft where, when you're talking, like you're saying, 18th round, 19th round, 20th round, all of a sudden, Justin Turner, Jorge Polanco, then there's let's get these guys, because people realize I took on a little bit of risk early that I may not, maybe that wasn't the best move. Now I'm going to get that stability here in the later rounds, which at least gives me that floor.
So Turner's off the market. The market, though, still has players. We're going to talk Cody Bellinger here in a bit, still looking for a home. Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, these guys still searching for a home. And we're 2 weeks out from camp. And Ray, I wanted, it's kind of a stare down's been going on, especially with Snell in the market and probably Bellinger in the market. And I will applaud baseball on this, Ray. Their owners make a lot of stupid deals. They're taking my side on this Snell Bellinger thing. And that's good. I know everybody hates rich owners again, but Ray, they hand out so many silly contracts, and I think Snell and Bellinger could have been very silly contracts, and maybe they still get it. But to this point, I think it's very evident that Snell and Bellinger, sure, they had great 2023s, but thankfully the people with the purse strings and the decision makers in baseball realize what these guys really are, and none of them right now, none of these teams, Ray, are wanting to give these guys beyond 4 or 5 years, and none of them want to go above 200 million or anything like that. We're seeing at least some sobriety from owners when it comes to Blake Snell and Cody Bellinger.
I think some of it might be forced sobriety, because apparently some teams are still concerned over revenue from TV and all that kind of stuff. So they've been reluctant to spend. This is, and again, we've talked about this a lot. This is bad for baseball, right? Football free agency opens up, and a week before free agency opens up, 47 guys are signed. We know, and it's this big thing, and it's this big press. Baseball's free agency has been open forever, and nothing is happening. We still have award-winning players on the free agent market, and I wish baseball would figure it out. I do agree with you. Being sober in the case of Bellinger and Snell makes a lot of sense. Read a really interesting article about Snell this morning, and it talks about the fact that, look, everything he does is kind of on the line, because he doesn't throw strikes. He doesn't throw the ball in the strike zone. His fastball's not very good. And when you start looking at these pieces, and it's everything has to go right for this guy, and it did last year, and look what happens. But 3-4 years from now, when the velocity's down a mile per hour and he's lost a couple inches of break, and is he going to turn into Dylan Cease? And he very well could. So I think that I would love to see the dam kind of break, because there's a ton of mid to low level free agents too that haven't signed, right? There's a ton of guys out there. There's still times for your favorite team to make some moves, I guess, is the moral of the story.
Speaking of Bellinger and Turner, let's move back to our positional discussion. This week, we're spotlighting the first base spot. And today, especially, we're talking about surprises from a year ago. Can they do it again? And Ray, it's fair to say both Bellinger and Turner show up on this list. You see the images there of Spencer Steer, Josh Naylor. I think Yandy Diaz is certainly here. Spencer Torkelson, who we talked a bit about yesterday. Let's start, since we kind of talked about Turner. Let's start with these two guys we're looking at, Spencer Steer and Josh Naylor. Steer kind of making his way for the first time through Major League Baseball a year ago. Part of that, arrival, that wave of guys that the Reds are bringing to the big leagues. And then Josh Naylor's kind of been floating around for a couple of years, Ray. And I think there's been interest from time to time, but it never really clicked. Last year, it was rough early. He came on so strong in the second half and really became a summer performer. Both these guys finished very strong at first base, a position that's relatively weak. Do you think both have a repeat in them for 2024?
Naylor is very interesting, because I'm looking at the numbers right now. I pulled them up because we all know what he did, and you can see it there. He had over 397 RBIs. He had a 949 OPS with men in scoring position last year, which is Hall of Fame level. And you think to yourself, well, of course that's going to pull back. And I think it's fair to expect that. Then you look at 2022 and the number was 981. And, for his career, it's 870. he is very effective with men on base, and he's going to have to be because unlike so many other corner infield options, Naylor's not a real big power guy. Like, could he hit 20 home runs? Yeah, he did a couple years ago. He hit 17 last year, but 25 is his ceiling. And even getting to that ceiling is a little rough. I think he's more of a 275 hitter. So, if you're profiling him out, I think he's more of a Josh Bell type. So I think last year was kind of the ceiling with Naylor. So it's a little concerning if you're drafting him expecting a repeat or improvement.
Hey, let me stop you there real quick on Naylor. 308. Mm-hmm. That blast off the page, right? In today's baseball, hitting 308 really takes off. And I see that, and I see Josh Naylor, and I think the Panda. I think Pablo Sandoval. Now, Sandoval was a guy, Ray, who had a very weird approach, and it's like, God, how's this guy hitting 330? Is Naylor like that, or is that just far? And again, we shouldn't expect there's like 3 Pandas every year, and it's very hard to consistently be the Panda. But is Josh Naylor like that, or am I barking up the wrong tree?
No, and I took a rather flattering photo of Josh Naylor. He's not the most doesn't have the most athletic build.
Yeah, and he's not Pablo Sandoval. He's not there yet. He needs to add another, 50 or 60 Twinkies to the menu.
And Pablo was such a good athlete too. He was light on his feet. I got to see him play for light on his feet and everything, but he was overweight. There's no doubt about that. I think Naylor is interesting because I think he's a good hitter. And what he's done is he's aged, and you can see it directly in his launch angle. Look, here are his career launch angle numbers: 5%, 8%, 9%, 10%, 12%. So every year he's starting to lift the ball a little bit more. And I think, again, that's why we're talking about him not being a 15 home run guy, but potentially a 25 home run guy. Uses the field pretty effectively. And I think that there is enough here to suggest he's got a chance to approach 300 if everything goes right. But he's not fleet of foot. This is not a player whose StatCast data jumps off the page either. Very much like Pablo Sandoval. Good call, Kyle. So, again, I think to me, you draft him and it's Nathaniel Lowe zone, right? We're expecting 275, 1775. That's what we're expecting. Let's see if we can get more. That's kind of where we're at. I think it's tough to envision a scenario where he's a legit option to hit 300.
Let's go to the guy off the top of the page for those who are viewing us live here on the podcast, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, X, wherever you're at. Spencer Steer. And Ray, he did not come in with near the attention or excitement that his younger and fellow rookies did. And we should note he's 25. Spencer Steer was never like, oh my God, just wait till Spencer Steer comes to the big leagues. He was never that guy. And perhaps, Ray, that is shown in how he bounced around the diamond everywhere. That's in fantasy sports, we get excited about guys like Spencer Steer who we can play all over the place. And sometimes, Ray, I find that excitement actually overwhelms who's the player. You just kind of get excited of, I can move them everywhere. Right. And maybe it distracts you from what the player can actually do. So give us a rundown. What can the player actually do?
Yeah, if you look at the picture on the screen, you note that if you have a 15 limit qualification at a position, he comes into the season with 4 positions. And if it's 20, he qualifies at 3. And that has to add $1 or $2 to an auction value. That has to add a round or 2 to draft position. It just has to because of the flexibility, whether or not he plays those positions this year or not. He qualifies there this season. To your point, in something we talked about earlier, we discussed Jonathan India last week, I think it was, the Reds got a lot of players here. They got too many guys if everyone's healthy. And so Steer might have to bounce around a little bit. And while it's great to have that, there's not many guys like DJ LeMahieu who have bounced around like that consistently and been a true weapon in the fantasy space. Usually it's the floater kind of players, to your point. And I think that Steer had a great season last year. I mean, let's not overlook the fact that he almost went 25-15, right? Which is, the power and the production. Okay, he had 15 steals too, which was terrific. Mm-hmm. It's tough to look at him and feel great about him improving. Tough. It's possible. But again, this will come down to playing time, how often he's out there. He was out there all the time last year. He had over 660 plate appearances. But there is no real, true standout skill here. He doesn't strike out a ton. He walks a good amount. He gets the ball in the air. 15% launch angle is a nice level to be at. But the batted ball data is not terrific. So his value to me, again, is, yes, we're going to get some counting category work here. But his real value is the flexibility that we're discussing.
A couple of other guys on this surprise list, and I guess we'll go to Yandy Diaz as the first one, Ray. And you were just talking about launch angle. Yandy Diaz made a big jump into the home run territory last year. I think coming into last year, he had like 39 home runs in 6 seasons, something like that. And he'd never been like 160, but it was 39 home runs in 6 seasons. And last year, Ray hits 22. And you were just talking about launch angle with Spencer Steer. It's interesting. And again, it shows that you can't just look at one number and you can't just concentrate on that. The launch angle, as to what I'm seeing, Ray, was way down from previous highs. Let's see. In 2022, it was 7.7. It was 6.6 in 2021. It was 7.9 in 2020. Last year, it was 5.7. So it did go backwards. What changed, Ray, is another stat that people love to look at when they say, well, why did a guy barrels? This guy, he squared up the round baseball. A lot of barrels here. I mean, he like doubled his percentage of barrels, and the velocity jumped up. I mean, 1 point. I mean, Ray, he was like at 88 a few years ago. Last year, he's over 93. That's a significant jump in 2 years' time.
It's huge. It's not even. I would use huge as the verb adjective. I don't even know what my verbs are anymore. Verbs, action word, right? I mean, and you look at his StatCast page, and I just pulled it up while we're talking here. And red is good for hitters, blue is bad. And you bring it up, his batting run value top 4% in baseball last year. His WOBA last year, his expected WOBA top 5%. His expected batting average top 2%. His exit velocity top 2%. His hard hit rate top 3%. Dude mashed the baseball. Now, he's always been a good hitter. If people remember, I don't know, was it 4 or 5 years ago, there were the picture of his arms that were bigger than my thighs. Like, you look at this guy and he's like a Greek Adonis, and then you look and he's hitting 9 home runs. You're like, what the hell's going on? I would be surprised if he repeated the 22 home runs. I think he's a 15 to 20 home run guy. I'd be surprised if he repeated the 330 batting average, but he can hit 300.
Yeah, that led the American League, by the way. 330, top hitter in the American League.
I think, and this is not something I thought of before right now, but I think if you look at the production of Josh Naylor on the screen there, and you said that's what Yandy Diaz does this year, the run scored column would probably be 82, not 52. But I think hitting 300, 1790, like, I think that's more of Yandy Diaz. That's who he is. And I think that, it all came together last year. Everything went right last year. If I had a concern, it would be the home runs dipping more than the batting average. Again, if you're hitting 300 in this day and age, it's 50-plus points above the league average. 300 with 17 home runs, I think he can do that this year.
So you'd be comfortable with him as your starting first baseman?
I would. And I think that, the league's in the 240s is batting average. And if you're projecting a guy to be a 300 hitter, it still carries weight. I can find 10 extra home runs at another position, right? I can grab Kyle Schwarber. I can grab those kind of the slugger type. I can grab one of those guys to get me the power. Finding 300 batting average from a guy that's going to play every day that doesn't have 4 home runs or 2 steals, it's really hard to find that. So I would be comfortable, but I'd have to structure my team a little bit differently.
So there you are, a discussion of a few of the surprises at first base from a year ago. Tomorrow we flip the coin and we'll go with disappointments of 2023 and kind of their outlook for 2024. One last thing on baseball. Every day we kind of like to spotlight a thought that Ray Flowers has columnized. Yeah, I'm just making up words here. He's turned it into a column. And this is one that he turns into a column each and every year. He's tired of wins. He hates wins. And Ray, I'm guessing a lot of the public can get behind you on this because that is frustrating. You draft good pitchers and they actually do well, but they get you 10 wins. It's the old Jake DeGrom issue. Ray, give us the rundown. You want to get rid of wins as a 5x5 category, correct?
Yeah, look at the screen there. Talking about the Colin Poche, a reliever, had more victories last year than the guy that finished second in the Cy Young in the NL. I mean, if there's ever been a more obvious, we got a problem here, like, oh, Ray, that's a
love that. And Colin Poche, Ray, becomes a difference maker. We appreciate Colin Poche and what he can do. It's like Topa, Justin Topa. Nobody gets to appreciate him. Guys like Colin Poche, Ray, we should appreciate them. They now stand out because of the wins category.
Yeah, and this year he'll pitch exactly the same and win 4 games. So, and you see it there too. The last 3 years, there have been 4 pitchers in baseball who have won 12 games each year. 12. 12, as it says there on the article. That's less than half a victory a week over the course of a season. And there's only 4 guys that have done it the last 3 years. We simply don't have enough units for wins. You win 15 games, you win 12 games, you win 16 games, you win 11 games. There's not enough units, number one. There's not enough differentiator between a reliever and a starter. Number 2, wins say nothing about a pitcher. You could give up 6 runs in 5 innings and get a win. You can throw 8 innings of shutout baseball and get no win. Wins tell you nothing about how the player performed. And there just simply has to be a better way to record the value of pitching, because we talk about this a lot. A starting pitcher only contributes in 4 categories in a 5x5 setup. And with the legit possibility that pitching exactly the same one year and the next can be the difference between 11 victories and 17 or 15 and 9, it just is a terrible category. So not enough units, too much volatility, and it doesn't directly speak to how a pitcher actually performed.
So then Ray becomes in it, because I don't really disagree with you on those fronts, the volatility and the issues with the win. But then it becomes a matter of, okay, we want to get rid of it, but we don't want to go 5x4. We have to have something in there. And this leads us to the quality start. This leads us to, as noted there on the sheet, the quality start plus win. Give us a my issue, as I stated earlier in the show, has been I don't disagree with the idea of wins, but I'm not really sold on the most popular replacements for wins.
I was in, I took a year off last year, but I'm back in this year, the Tout Wars League that has taken up the mantle. We have decided to go with solds. We have decided in that league to replace wins with innings. So it seems to be there's kind of 2 directions people take with wins. Let's replace it with innings, because again, those are hard to find. It sounds stupid. 25 years ago, that would be dumb. Now it's harder to find wins than innings than you would think. Or secondly, the suggestion here that comes from Ron Chandler years ago. I like quality start wins because in some respects, quality start, like I said there on the page, quality start's not a good number. You can have a 4.5 ERA, you give up 3 runs in 6 innings. Not very good, right? But at least you went 6 innings, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it does incorporate the innings pitched component with it. It gets the opportunity, for the guys that are consistent to qualify in a more advantageous manner, because, Logan Webb was second in baseball last year with 24 quality starts, even though he had fewer victories than Colin Poche. So I think it's a nice combination of some durability and depth, and then just getting us more units. And if you look at the QSW leaders from last season, here, the top 3 guys are Garrett Cole, Spencer Strider, and Zach Allen. So it didn't appreciably change those guys at the top. Those guys won 15, 20, and 17 games. So I think it just does a good job of giving value to guys like Logan Webb or Zach Wheeler or Zach Eflin, guys that didn't necessarily, George Kirby, guys that didn't necessarily post huge win totals, but did a very good job of keeping their team in games. And it's more indicative of how they pitched in 2023.
The innings one, to me, Ray, is probably a bit better than either of the quality start inclusive ones. It's a weird, because in effect, you're saying the most important thing to me is a guy who can take the ball every 5 days. And honestly, Ray, we're at a point, I don't think this is changing anytime soon, where that should be kind of what a pitcher is judged on more than any other thing, is the ability. Now, another team might say, it's not really the important thing to us. Our important thing is we've got depth at pitching. And so we've got 7 guys we can rotate. We don't need guys who can take it every 5 days. I mean, in effect, Ray, we're watching the Dodgers say we don't need guys who can go every 5 days. And that's the best team in baseball, the best franchise. I mean, they pretty well said, screw it, we've moved on. Like, they're not even interested. I compare that to here in St. Louis, Ray, they're signing guys purely because they can take the ball every 5 days. Mm-hmm. So they're going the other way from the Dodgers.
Right.
It's usually not a boat you want to be in, by the way. It's going the opposite direction. So we'll see. So I wonder, the problem with the innings thing, Ray, is we might just get a vast majority of baseball saying we're not interested in that anymore. And so nobody gets 160 innings. I don't know. I do like it more than the quality start. One problem I've had with the quality start, Ray,
mm-hmm.
and this is, I don't even know if people care about this. I would. Ray, if I knew my pitcher had earned that quality start, I got it. He went 6 innings and he gave up 2 runs. Wow, quality. And then they send him out in the 7th inning, and the first 2 guys reach base. They pull him. Those 2 runs come around. All of a sudden, I've lost the quality start.
Right.
Like the problem with me for that stat, one of the problems is I'm actively rooting for my pitcher to be pulled.
George Kirby, it's your hero.
Yeah. I want my pitcher out of there so that I don't lose the stat. And I guess that works with wins as well. You know, that's something people maybe don't think about with wins, but Ray, in effect, you can lose a quality start after you earned a quality start. You can't really lose a win after you've earned it. And again, maybe that's in the weeds and people don't care, but I have a problem when the stat can be created and then the stat can be erased off the sheet.
Well, if you think about it, they're, winning 300 games was the kind of the baseline for the Hall of Fame. No one's going to ever, we may never see a 300 winner ever again. Mm-hmm. We have to readjust. Maybe it's 250, maybe it's 225, maybe it's 200, right? We have to readjust. And I think it's fair to consider readjusting the quality start, especially in the modern day where guys go 5 innings, right? That's it. If you go 5 innings, you get a high five in the clubhouse, right? You can be making $20 million if you get 5 innings, high five, man. Guys don't go deep into games. Let's adjust the quality start. Let's say if you're man enough in this day and age to go 7 innings, we'll let you give up 4 runs. Mm-hmm. Or maybe if you go 8 innings, it's 4 runs. Some kind of adjustment, because we're still saying, 4 runs in 7 innings. It's not good. What's a 4.86 ERA? Whatever the hell it is, it's not good.
Well, and 3 and 6 is a 4.5 ERA.
Yeah, so it's
Does anybody get excited about their starting pitcher sporting a 4.5 ERA?
No, they don't. But to your point, that is putting more emphasis then on the innings, on the work. So I wouldn't be opposed. And again, this would be tricky for some people because people like definitive. Like it's not quality start and then quality start plus. Well, if you went 7 innings and we change this. But it is something to think about. Wins can go the same way, though. The guy leaves with a 5-run lead and the bullpen gives up 6 runs. I mean, it's just, and again, that's another reason why, a number like win in particular is so bad, at least in the case of the quality start. You get the quality start point. If the bullpen then came in and gave up 5 runs, you still get the quality start. If the bullpen comes in and gives up the 5 runs, you don't get the victory.
I do prefer innings over quality start, I guess.
That's what Tout Wars does.
Yeah, so we'll see how that goes. You'll have to report back on that. One final thing on this, and then we'll get to Justin for some hoops. And I'm sure like Fangraphs has probably done this, or our buddy Anthony Perry from Fantistics, but correlation, the idea of you can't predict wins. I wonder over like hundreds, or let's say 25 years of baseball, if there is a correlation between pitchers getting wins and their teams getting wins. The idea of I'm going to draft a guy on the Yankees. I'm going to draft a guy, on the Houston Astros. And again, sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But I wonder, if you could pile all those numbers into the math machine, if you would find out if there is a true correlation between just starting pitchers being on teams that win games and if it leads to more victories. A lot of people, it's kind of like the relievers. You get more saves if you're on a good team. Not necessarily. That correlation isn't definitive. Okay, so there it is. There's the layout. Column is up in the draft guide, fantasyguru.com. Also at fantasyguru.com, plenty of basketball. There's always plenty of basketball. It's a 5-game slate tonight. That means that there'll be a DFS cheat sheet, DFS breakdown. That means that Justin Fensterman, our next guest, will be helping you through your Tuesday night. He helps you out almost every night. He and the crew at Fantasy Guru with all things NBA and DFS. And every Tuesday, he joins us here on the show. Justin, how's it going, man?
Going well, Kyle. Ray, good to see you as well. How's everything, boys?
It's well, although I am not $40 richer like you are after the big Royal
You
Rumble.
could have been. You declined.
Yeah,
it was like
came out winning the Royal Rumble pie, huh?
Yeah, listen, it was like prom for me all over again. Got rejected twice when I offered you a chance at the dance, and you declined. I don't know why you did, but hey, next year it'll be on Netflix, hopefully, and you'll be able to get the $10 in to potentially win 200.
Yeah, it's. I don't want to ruin my reputation in the hallways. Getting into WWE pools. If I went, it's like going to you with prom. I don't want to ruin my reputation. I look bad. So maybe next year. Of course, it'd be nice if the WWE had, somebody who wasn't such a disgusting, awful person.
Well, he's gone now.
They don't. He's gone. He doesn't.
I know. Yeah, he's gone. He just ran it for 50 years.
Yeah, he's gone now. He's gone.
Okay, it's all clean. I apologize. Okay, I'll actually hit you right in your sweet spot, Justin. You'll love this. Knicks, baby. Knicks. I saw since January 1st. Is there a hotter team in basketball? Probably not. The Knicks are 13-2 since the flip of the calendar, but they've lost Julius Randle. Now they still got talent, but what's this mean for the fantasy player? Randle, I think it's a shoulder, probably multiple weeks. Who gets the boost up with Julius Randle out for the Knicks?
I mean, you start to look at some of the other midcourt players like Dante DiVincenzo, who we saw last night, and I should have bet that point prop on him. It was at 15.5, and you saw him get a lot more shots. But also, OG Anunoby was out last night too, and that's going to be a big one right there. He's going to be driving the lane more. He's going to have clearer lanes, so I expect his offense to go up. But then your multi-category producer and our DFS darling, who was last night and is going to continue to be even tonight, Josh Hart as well, a guy who can play 4 positions and fill up that stat sheet when given the minutes. Julius Randle being out, guys, it boosts just about everybody on this team. But those 3 in particular will absolutely be boosted. And for DFS, the books will keep them down. The sites, rather, will keep them down for a little bit, those prices. So we'll get to enjoy some value for a little bit.
Ben Simmons apparently has decided to play basketball. I don't follow this closely. I just know that Ben Simmons doesn't play, and there's always some excuse, cell phone in his pocket at practice. I'm not giving the guy any leeway here. I could be totally off.
Just wait until you hear he can't hit free throws, right?
Yeah, well, I know he can't hit free throws. He can't shoot.
He's terrible.
Yeah, he can't shoot. But he's back for the Nets. Talk to us about the whole scenario, Justin. What does it mean? Am I being unfair to Ben Simmons?
No, listen, I think, first of all, you're not being unfair to Ben Simmons because it's been a lot of ridiculousness. However, this was an actual injury that he's coming back from, that he's missed nearly 40 games, nerve damage. And that right there, it just, injuries don't escape this guy, but nerve damage is very bad. I remember when Michael Porter Jr. went through it, he wasn't the same when he was out for an extended period of time, which makes me believe, guys, that Ben Simmons is going to be watched very carefully and he's not going to be unleashed. I don't think you're going to be seeing him play regularly 30 minutes until maybe the tail end of the season if he can stay healthy. But what does he do? He boosts the Nets, like you pointed out, Ray. Guy can't shoot, free throws can't make, but he's very good at playing defense. And that worries me because we've been attacking the Nets with guards all year long while he's been out. We can't do that anymore. When he's in, he's going to be a matchup nightmare. So whether he ends up starting and plays 25, 27 minutes, or he comes off the bench and plays 23 minutes, this guy, when he's on the court, is going to be bad news for the players that we're attacking the Nets with. So I think they're going to bring him along slowly. But we saw, and especially those in points leagues, by the way, maybe you might be able to get him at a discount thinking that he'll only play a certain amount of time, and that would dissuade a fantasy owner. Try to trade for him now because this is a guy that, especially in points leagues, he showed last night he can fill up the stat sheet very quickly. A double-double in 18 minutes.
Wow, that's pretty damn good. Justin, we cover GPP and cash games for pretty much every sport over here at fantasyguru.com. And Jeff Mans is very vociferous in his support of the cash game. And it seems like you're kind of doing the same thing, Justin. You're saying cash games cash. You're in Discord talking about cash games. You're in articles talking about cash games. Talk to us here about cash games and why you think that's a better way to go than some people wanting to throw that money in the GPP scenario.
It's very easy, Ray. GPPs are the enemy. GPPs are meant to take our money. Multi-entry as well. It's like you think about it just on the broader scale. Why would you play in a multi-entry contest than a single entry contest? It just makes no sense to me, and it never has. And there's separate strategy when playing in a multi-entry large field. But when it comes to cash games with the volatility of the NBA, I don't want to have to focus on ownership as much. I don't want to have to essentially fade somebody who has a killer matchup who we know is going to get a 6X at a mid-range price point just because he might be 65, 70% owned in a contest. And that's why I say cash games cash. But people just think about the $1 million dream, like when FanDuel and DraftKings and Star Street and Fantasy Aces all came out. Kyle, we used to make fun of it on the air all the time on the radio. We used to make fun of that all the time. You can win $1 million. Yeah. What's wrong with putting an awesome fire cash game lineup in 3 50-50s that are $20 each if you want to go that high and win $60 and you walk away.
It's not $1 million. That's what the problem is.
But that's the problem. That it's not good enough for people. They see one person in every 1,000 in Discord cashing a few $100 and they think, okay, now I got to cash 800. Oh, I made $25. It could have been $250. Such a gambler's mentality. The NBA has too much volatility, and I think by playing in cash games more, we know what we're playing when we're playing our players. We know that we're going after the best plays out there, and just because you don't win tens of thousands of dollars in one hit doesn't mean it can't be profitable. Just people don't have the patience, and it's a problem.
You mentioned too much volatility in the NBA. I must ask, and this is kind of a two-part question. Scoring's out of control. I mean, in the last week, Doncic and Embiid have both hit over 70. I think PJ Washington had like 42 points the other night. It's like,
someone's got a score on that team, Kyle.
Yeah. I think maybe I'm wrong. I think it's like 115, 116 points a game per team. So, two-part question. Is there too much scoring? Like, is this getting silly? And B, for the wagerer, have the over-unders, the game totals really taken off this year? I mean, have the books totally caught up to this?
Yeah, I mean, they have. That's the problem, and they were from the start. I mean, there was a few years ago, 2 years ago, we thought 238.5 was an insanely high total. Now, I'm looking at tonight's 5 games. You've got 3 games with at least a 235.5 total. You got Lakers Hawks at 248. 248, guys. We've seen games, multiple games in the 250s. Also tonight, Pacers Celtics 245 as well, and that's with questionable players on both sides. So yes, it has got out of control, and that's in a way, Kyle, why I've been staying away from betting the over-unders and been asked in Discord, you go after a lot of player props, but why not the over-unders as much? And that's because back when 238.5 was the highest point, we were crushing the books with over-unders. Now they're just so hard to beat. They're all caught up, and it's very hard to really tout an over-under because all of a sudden what happens is a team falls back 20, 25 points, and then they're bringing in the reserves to start the fourth quarter. Normally, guys, we see that happen when you empty the bench. They at least play the normal rotation players for about 5-6 minutes in the fourth. This year, and I saw it a little last year, now they're just taking off the entire fourth. Joel Embiid up, just sit the fourth.
Yeah.
I love just giving up. Here's $30 million, but don't play the whole 48 minutes. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, I know, right? Because giving up does everybody a lot of good, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Well, teams aren't going to give up at the trade deadline. They're going to obviously push. There's teams that think they need one more piece. There's obviously names that are out there. Give us a few of the names, Justin, that you're hearing in the old rumor mill that could be on the move here at the trade deadline.
I got 5 for you right here. I got 5 on it.
Nice.
Kyle has no clue what I just sang there. But all right, Zach Levine is one that we've been talking about all year. I just think he holds down the Bulls offense. And if they're going to start to retool a little bit, get rid of this guy, put him on a contender, say, hey, look, this is a guy that can get you, bring up the ball for you, also move around a bit, and hey, can help out boost your scoring and keep the pace running somewhat fast. So that's a good sell to a contender. Bruce Brown was just traded to Toronto. Don't think he really belongs there. The plan was him why he signed with Indiana to be part of Indiana's plans, and then the Siakam trade brought him to Toronto. Another guy would fit on a contending piece, gives you that offense, but more importantly, shuts down the lanes with strong defense at the elbow. DeJounte Murray, I think Atlanta's ready to blow the whole thing up. It's just been bad. They're not producing wins. They don't play any defense. They can have all the offense in the world, but it's just not balancing out for them, so he can be on the move. Jordan Clarkson from the Jazz, just too many guards on that team. You've got too many scoring options. And then this one from the Knicks, who I don't know if the Randle injury changes things at all. And this guy's a guard forward anyway, but some of their other guard forwards shift up because Randle's hurt now and they don't have a lot of depth up front. But Quentin Grimes, who's a good defender, can hit the knockdown 3. Somebody else who's been on the block because he's very unhappy with his role. Now, mind you guys, this was the guy that halted the talks between the Knicks and the Jazz regarding Donovan Mitchell a couple of summers ago. Jazz wanted him along with a boatload of other assets, and the Knicks were not trading Grimes, and that ended their talks.
Well, Knicks are doing fine. They don't need Donovan.
No, they don't at all. I mean, we saw in the playoffs when the Knicks faced them, we saw Donovan Mitchell just crumble at the seams, and yeah, that gave us all the hope we can get.
Trading deadline, by the way, February 8th. So we'll get back in touch with Justin next Tuesday and still have a couple of days left before that deadline. Final thing, we got 5 games tonight. From a DFS perspective, is there anything you're spotlighting? Maybe a game, maybe a team, a player, anything you're feeling good about early in the afternoon?
I want to go after this Lakers-Hawks game. A lot of teams coming off last night. That's the problem. A lot of back-to-back. So we have half the field that's questionable, guys. Just I'll run this down quickly. Embiid, LeBron, Halliburton, Tyrese Maxey, DeJounte Murray, Porzingis, Emmanuel Quickly, OG Anunoby, Miles Turner, Jakob Poeltl. All these guys in a 5-game slate are questionable.
Ugh.
That's a problem.
Yeah. Porzingis has been questionable for at least 6 years.
Porzingis has been questionable his whole career, Kyle. Let's be real here, okay? The guy can barely stay fully healthy, and it's because of the way he's built. Always getting nicked up, and when it hits, it hurts.
Yeah, he's one of those. I mean, Wembanyama, it's like I look at these guys, it's like seriously, I've never seen a body break in half, but I expect to see a body break in half.
You know what? You know who gives me hope regarding Wembanyama? Giannis, because we saw Giannis as someone so skinny coming in, and then he bulked up and put on that mask. So I think guys like Wembanyama and Chet Holmgren can do exactly that, balance out the body from their upper and lower body strength and their core, and it may protect them a little bit when they
got to get Wembanyama on a San Antonio wet burrito diet. Like nothing but burritos. As like those big 12-pounders.
You know what's going to happen, Kyle? You're going to see him ruled out last second, and in the parentheses for his injury, it's going to say diarrhea.
Yeah, gastrointestinal distress.
Yes. Hey, we had DeAndre Ayton ruled out because it was too icy on his driveway to get out of the house.
Everybody's making fun of that, but I get it. Ray hasn't.
I haven't.
Justin, I have been, luckily I work from home, but hey, when it's icy, there are places you can't get. And if you're in the mountains of Oregon, come on.
When I was producing your radio show all these years ago, and it would snow in DC, and we didn't have the remote setup, it was, you're going to a hotel and this show is airing tomorrow, no matter what. I don't care if it's Snowpocalypse like it was in 2010. Their show is airing tomorrow. So if I could stay in a hotel for radio producing, DeAndre Ayton could stay in a freaking hotel too.
Here's what would have happened. He would have busted his tail to get to the stadium, and then they would have said, "You got the night off, buddy." It's
bruised tailbone snow.
Yeah. Okay, Justin. Tonight, I know you'll be helping people out in Discord. Cheat sheets coming out for the 5-game slate. Fantastic. Love visiting with you. We'll talk next week.
Thank you so much again, guys.
Okay. Watch Along Wednesday, by the way, is coming your way tomorrow night with Justin. So he's got more on that. It's a chance for you to kind of see the game through Justin's eyes as it happens. He does that every Wednesday. Great addition to the NBA product that we have. Football-wise, Ray, not a whole lot shaken. I see the Commanders are going to interview, like there's still 5 head coaching candidates in the next day or so. They have no idea what they're doing.
Ben Johnson was there, and then all of a sudden... So
I guess they hated his 3rd and 4th quarter against the Niners, and they're all
maybe. You never know. But yeah, they'll make a decision soon. Just as an aside, I find it really odd. Do you, Kyle? I get the process, but why aren't coaches interviewing while they're still playing? Shouldn't the NFL put a moratorium on all signings until like Super Bowl week or something?
Yeah,
I don't know. It's weird to me.
I think that really cuts both ways, right? I think the problem I see from a lot of angles, okay, I get it. Like Ben Johnson, your job is to win against San Francisco. So should you be distracted by this? Secondly, I don't think a team should be frozen out of, should they hire guys just because now I can do it and they're available versus, I'd really like to talk to this guy. So, and then the other aspect, Ray, is Ben Johnson kind of gets screwed over if he can't do interviews. If his team's really good and he can't get a job that year purely because they're really good, like I hate that. There's so many things moving where I think you should allow the interviews to progress. And it sounds like most of these head coaches, these interviews aren't, I'm flying into DC in the middle of prep. It's okay. We're prepping for one game. We've done this for 18 weeks. Sure, we want to crunch all, but can we really change what's going to happen on Sunday this late in the season? So I think the way it is now is fine, but it is very weird from a lot of different perspectives. Is it good here? Is it bad there? Is it unfair here? Fair here? I get what you're saying about that.
Yeah, and again, like I said, technology nowadays, something as stupid as Zoom, you could talk across the world. So it is different than it was 10 years ago where you really needed to fly guys in and all that. Fair point.
Yeah. Kansas City, if you didn't know, they're in the Super Bowl. Charles Omenihu, I think it is, along their D-line torn ACL, so he's out. He's had, I think, 7 or 8 sacks this year. He had the big hit on Jackson, I know, in this last weekend, but he will be missing. They've been a little banged up in their secondary as well. So the Chiefs need the 2 weeks as they get set. Again, that game coming your way next Sunday night in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Ray, anything else? Anything we failed to hit on today? We hit a lot, I think.
We did. No, I think more of the same tomorrow. More great articles coming out at fantasyguru.com. Use that promo code FSD20 to sign up for everything: football, baseball, basketball, hockey, soccer, racing, wagering, horse racing, everything over there, FSD20.
Boom, 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 boom. Ray's knocking us out with all the information there. We're back tomorrow, 11 a.m. More on First Baseman. We will hit the disappointments. We will spotlight another breakdown courtesy of Ray Flowers and that Fantasy Guru Baseball Draft Guide. More football. We'll see where else the world takes us. It's all coming your way tomorrow, 11 a.m. Eastern. Big thank you to everybody in the chat room going back and forth and firing questions our way and comments as well. Kind of keeping the room going. Ray, take it easy. We'll talk tomorrow.
Sounds good, Cal.
Okay, this has been Fantasy Sports Daily, powered by fantasyguru.com.